So after giving Sonic Advance a proper chance recently, I did the same with Sonic Advance 2. I was very interested in jumping back into this one, as it is very sentimental to me. Sonic Advance 2 was the first GBA game I ever played. I played it to death as a kid, and hell, I even made a full Let's Play project of it back in March 2013. I absolutely loved this game growing up, and after a very good impression that Sonic Advance left on me, I gave the sequel a shot by streaming Sonic Advance 2. I also chose to revisit this one exactly like how it was back in the day, being no help or guides and to full 100% completion, only using the enclosed instruction manual as my backup. So allow me to talk about my time revisiting Sonic Advance 2. Sonic Advance 2 is just good. Yeah, after giving the game another go, it is still fun, but definitely doesn't excite me as much as it used to. Doing a complete 180 from Sonic Advance, this game moves away from the main premise being about platforming and focuses more on high speed. And by that, I mean you will literally be whizzing past zones. It's damn fast. Now, while definitely exhilarating at first, I mean, Sonic has always been known to go fast, I noticed that it really drags down the differences in level design. The speed is nice and keeping that momentum throughout the stage is satisfying, but pay attention to the actual level structure itself. The difference between Leaf Forest and Hot Crater isn't really that different. Sure, the visuals and colour palette are different, but put these two levels side by side and you are basically doing the same thing. This is where the mechanic of hold right to win comes into play, and it is quite common with a lot of levels. The majority of the time I find myself just holding right and occasionally mashing the jump button to avoid stuff. I don't know about you guys, but I don't find this that challenging. Advance 1's focus on platforming meant that the levels got harder along the way, and this gave each level a unique side to stand out. In Advance 2, the only thing that stands out are the visuals on each stage. You're more or less doing the same thing on every level, being holding right. A couple of levels like Music Plant changed this up a bit, having loads of paths and more slower segments, but later levels are just loads of speed ramps and sections. Also, characters are sadly not playable from the beginning this time around. You can only start with Sonic, and unlock the characters when clearing certain zones along the way. It doesn't take too long to unlock them, but it's still a bit of a strange choice. When you save a character, you also get these cutscenes for story progression. They're quite cute and a neat little thing to add for the lore. Anyway, let's talk about the characters themselves. Sonic himself has the same moves as in Advance 1, but slightly tweaked and even additional moves added. The tweaks are the somersault attack, being that you can just press B once and he attacks now. In Advance 1 you had to press it multiple times for whatever reason. He also has this bouncing move, and it's not really that useful in my opinion. The only times I use this is to break a thing below me that leads to another path or hidden area. Cream the Rabbit also makes a debut in the Sonic series, having the ability to fly with her ears, except a lot shorter altitude than Tails. She also has her little sidekick Cheese the Chow. Cheese absolutely breaks the game, as he is able to lock on to nearby enemies acting as a way to cheese them. This even applies for bosses, but I'll get to that later on. It's absolutely nuts though. Tails also stars in this game, but he is honestly the exact same as he was in Advance 1. The only difference is that he has little clones that follow him whenever he reaches max speed, but to be honest, so does everyone else, so it's nothing special at all, and that is Tails. Knuckles also remains the same, except he has a new borrowing move whenever you jump and press B. I imagine this is a little reference to the drill move he used in Sonic Adventure 2. Other than that, that is Knuckles. There is also one extra character the player has, but we'll be getting to that by the end of the game, so I'll get to that character later on. And we of course can't forget the new R action moves. While launching into the air, if you press the R button along with the D-pad, your character will perform a little air trick for extra reach. The little sound that plays during it is also nice to the ears. I especially find the spin cycle trick for Sonic useful as he goes into attack mode whilst in the air. Same for Knuckles, but he just lunges instead. For some reason with Cream and Tails they don't have an attack, and at times the tricks can be useless if you're facing enemies. The up R trick is also damn helpful for reaching higher areas, as the characters gain a lot of altitude from it. The R tricks are crucial to learn though to beat Sonic Advance 2. The reason why is because the stage Sky Canyon wants you to use the R tricks to hit certain boosters. The problem is that the game never teaches you this though. The only way you would know about the R tricks is from word of mouth with other players, or the instruction manual itself. Meaning that for those who played this without the manual, they probably died a lot in this stage unaware about the action. If you ask me, the game should have some form of it about the trick actions. For example, even just a simple sign before this jump saying up plus R, to make the player aware that there is an action required, or even design a part of the game early on that forces you to use the R button so that then the player discovers it. Just something simple or effective was needed, but sadly missing in this game. As soon as you realise about the R commands though, the rest of the game is pretty smooth sailing from there. Even for the other characters, the R buttons do the same function except with slightly different animations. For example, Sonic does a backflip and Knuckles uses his elbow. It's little details, but a nice touch and lovely animation. Now, with the R tricks and characters out of the way, let's move on to the bosses. The bosses in Advance 2 act a bit different this time. Instead of staying still and observing the boss pattern, you're on foot chasing the boss to hit Eggman. To be honest, I am a little mixed on this style for a boss. It's quite thrilling picking up the momentum for a bit, but most of the time the hardest part is fighting with the speed physics. With Cream, however, yeah, she's basically an unstoppable force. With her ability to lock onto enemies, this means that you can just spam cheese constantly to hit the boss. The only thing you have to worry about is dodging. Not sure if this was a development oversight, but it's pretty broken if you ask me. Makes every fight a cakewalk. As for the other characters, it's slightly more tricky. You need to catch up as well as dodge, and sometimes it can throw you off your timing. The bosses just require practice, and like I said, they can be quite thrilling on the chase, but I personally prefer the old style where you could learn how to dodge and observe the attacks. This speed style would work well in the later 3D games though, as you could see what was up ahead as well as get the full sense of speed and momentum, especially in Sonic Unleashed. My favourite boss in the game is funnily enough the final one, as it's the only one where you stand still. Instead of just needing to run up and hit, you need to figure out how to get to the cockpit using the environment around you. It's honestly a really cool boss. Difficult at first, but satisfying to figure out. And oh boy, it's time to talk about the special stages. No idea what the hell they were thinking over on the design department, but I found the special stages in Advance 2 to be absolutely terrible. In each level there are these golden floating special rings spread around, and you must collect them by the end of the act to jump into a special stage. How many, you ask? 7. 7 of these bloody things. And you can't just redo the stage and find the last remaining ones, oh no. You have to collect them all in one single swoop. Even if you die, all of the special rings just reset. Trying to find these damn things is not a pain too. The placements for these are just some of the most random bollocks I've ever seen. Some are conveniently near the start, others are below, others are up high, some are hidden behind walls, and some are so stupidly placed you wouldn't have even thought of pulling these tricks on your normal playthrough. I spent absolutely ages on each zone finding these little buggers. I can't even count the number of times I had to reset all just because I took the wrong path. It also doesn't help that the screen is so zoomed in and the level layout is so damn similar throughout. I chose to do all this without a guide and it was so bloody stressful and frustrating. Let me give you some tips if you plan to also take on this task. 1. Play as Tails. Much like in Advance 1, Tails is most useful for exploration as he can fly around scouting areas. 2. Study every damn part of the level, note down and reference key details whenever you find a special ring. And 3. Backtrack. A lot. When you finally find all 7 of these things, you can enter a special stage by getting to the end of the act. The character does a sudden boost and we are treated to a 3D special stage. Not fully 3D, but more just an illusion as the control is still 2D style. For GBA standards, this is honestly quite impressive. It makes me think of Mode 7 on the Super Nintendo. As for what you actually do here, it's honestly very boring. Too easy and also too long. Your goal is to collect 300 rings before the time runs out, and the secret to success is to net a bunch of ring combos. You do this by collecting rings in a big sequence to where your amount multiplies. It goes up and up the more you keep the combo going, and it can be quite exciting netting a high score. However, the fun gets old very fast, as the bigger the combo is, the faster you approach 300 rings. I have had moments where just a couple of seconds in I net 300 rings, so the special stages aren't really that challenging at all. Unlike previous Sonic games, the special stages don't get progressively harder along the way, it's literally just the same thing every time, except the background is slightly different. For some reason, as soon as you collect 300 rings, the stage just doesn't end from there. Oh no, because you have to wait for the timer to finish, so you'll just be running around aimlessly waiting till the results show up. Out of boredom, I tried to see what the highest number of rings was, so there was that to pass the time. But even still, this is a really weird choice of design if you ask me. You also have this robot called Zero who will try to stop you, but he's seriously piss easy. As long as you keep running then jump at him, you'll never take damage. And that is the special stages. For Sonic. Yep, you heard me right, that was just for Sonic. For whatever reason, Chaos Emeralds don't apply for all characters as soon as you obtain them. You have to collect them all individually. So that means you better have memorized exactly where all those damn special rings are, or else you ain't getting anything. This is a very tedious thing to do, and revisiting this side of the game was not fun at all. It felt incredibly repetitive and also frustrating, as I then had to figure out how to get all the special rings as that character. For instance, the first time around I fly around the level as Tails to find the whereabouts, but now I have to figure out how to get them without flying, as I'm playing as Sonic. Most of the time what I did was find where all the special rings were as Tails, nab the Chaos Emerald as him, then immediately do the exact same thing with the other characters, so that my memory for the special ring locations was still there. It was annoying as heck, but it did help out immensely for progression. And that's the most upsetting thing about how Chaos Emeralds are in this game. The hardest part isn't actually the skill required to get them, but more just finding where all the special rings are. It's like one big game of hide and seek. But as soon as you know where they are, getting the Chaos Emerald isn't that bad. But the way they are placed and how many there are is just ridiculous. I could clearly tell that there was no thought or consideration in placing these bloody things, as there were levels where I had to backtrack or even do something very absurd just to get them all in one swoop. It's like they just threw them in at random places and called it a day. So yeah, in case you can't tell, I'm not really that big of a fan for how the Chaos Emeralds were handled in this game. The rewards aren't all that great either, as if you collect all Chaos Emeralds as one character then beat the final boss, you unlock the tiny Chow Garden. Yeah, remember that thing that was like a cute little Tamagotchi in Sonic Advance? Well, instead of being available right from the start, the Chaos Emeralds are needed. So that's 7 emeralds for the Chow Garden. If you repeat the same process with a different character, your prize for all that is a sound test. Yep, a basic bloody thing that's been available even in the early NES days. That is the unlockable. 14 Chaos Emeralds for a sound test. Doing the same thing with another character will also unlock Time Attack mode. Why is this not a thing as soon as you clear a stage? And finally, all 28 Chaos Emeralds grants you the ultimate gift. Something so mystifying and rewarding that it'll make you immortal. Amy Rose. Yes, your whole damn life has been poured away to play as another character, even though she was available from the start in Sonic Advance. And she's not even that good! Like for real, she's literally just a carbon copy of Sonic but with a hammer. She boosts, she spin dashes, she jumps into a ball, her R tricks are the same, she has a bow move with a bounce, she can do a huge flip on rails at the end. The only difference is that she has no air dash and she uses her hammer to attack. To be honest, her hammer doesn't even function the same as an advanced one. For whatever reason, it's sped up, and the hit detection is absolute crap! Seriously, I tried this out and her hammer does jack shit! It's honestly a shame because in Advance 1, she really stood out from everyone else. In Advance 2, she's literally just a copy of Sonic, so going through all this to unlock her just feels insulting. Oh, and by the way, a new character also means more Chaos Emeralds. So that makes a grand total of 35 Chaos Emeralds to nab in Sonic Advance 2. And after getting all 35, what's your reward? Nothing! I'm not even joking, you get nothing if you do this, so it's not even worth it. It's honestly shocking. And that is how the Chaos Emeralds are in Sonic Advance 2. I'm very glad they never returned to this, as the structure and form was just all over the place. However, thankfully the Chaos Emeralds for all the other characters are only needed for the lame extra unlockables. Yeah, the actual real ending to the game is unlocked if you collect all the Chaos Emeralds as Sonic, and clear the final zone as Sonic, Cream, Tails and Knuckles. Amy doesn't count for whatever reason. As soon as you do all this, when you go back to the zone select screen, an extra path is unlocked called True Area 53. A bizarre reference to Area 51 in America. Don't know why, but okay. But to tell you the truth, it's a damn shame getting to this point is incredibly tedious, as it has a really damn cool boss fight. The best in the game in my opinion. Here, we get a little narrative going on where Cream's mother Vanilla is captured by an invisible robot. Everyone arrives and they all grieve. But then Sonic does this. Now that's a hype transformation right there. A huge step up from Sonic Advance. The music, the animation, the build up, the sound effects, it's all just awesome. And so Sonic flies off to space to save Vanilla in an absolutely awesome boss battle. This plays very similar to Sonic 3 and Knuckles, where you fly around in space dodging projectiles using them against Eggman. However, this time around when missiles are sent, you bash them back at Eggman. There are rings to also keep Super Sonic's power going, and this is a really fun boss battle. Reason why is because you're not fighting against the game's speed physics, you are simply keeping an eye on your health, dodging stuff as well as timing your shots. This feels more skill based and rewarding. This feels like a Super Sonic boss battle. I already said why I found Advanced 1's lackluster, but Advanced 2's completely blows that one away. Not to mention the absolute awesome music playing. True Area 53's song is so damn hype and really adds to the adrenaline and intensity of the fight. It's brilliant stuff. The boss also changes up with more stuff thrown at you later, and then that's it. Sonic destroys the robot and saves Vanilla. This cutscene also plays, which completely fixes the strange thing Advanced 1 did where Sonic had been gone for a couple of days. In this one we see that he is using his supersonic strength to break open the capsule as it falls back down to Earth. As soon as he does, he goes back to his normal self and has no choice but to try and catch Vanilla as she plummets to the ground. Obviously he does though. And then that is the ending to Sonic Advance 2. Sonic's friends are glad he is safe and sound, and Cream is absolutely overjoyed that her mother is safe. Then they wonder where the heck Sonic goes as he just runs off for some reason. Guess that's what he does best, I suppose. And that is Sonic Advance 2, everyone. Here is my take on it. It's fine. If you play through the game casually speeding through zones, it's pretty fun. It's exhilarating to keep that speed going throughout the levels and is fun to blast through in an afternoon or so. However, I cannot pass the design flaw that is collecting the Chaos Emeralds. If you do want to play this game, I would honestly recommend using the cheat system for the Chaos Emeralds, as you really do not want to go through this process. I did, and I'm never doing it again. As for me, on this journey of revisiting the Sonic Advance trilogy, I prefer Advance 1 over this one. The design and overall feel of Sonic Advance holds more impressions for me, but I still do enjoy Advance 2, just not as much as I used to. Now, I'll be moving on to Sonic Advance 3. Yeah, I'm aware that Sonic Battle came out next, but I'm more looking at the Advance trilogy with platforming at the minute. Battle is all about fighting in a different style, so I'm going to need to give that one a shot in my own time at some point. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for listening to me ramble.